You ever think that you'd be done learning by now? I mean, surely, like, life should just come with like this syllabus and an exam date, and then once you're done, you're done. But yet, here we are, still being schooled by our own reactions, our relationships, and then just even the random Tuesdays come along and just like, bam, there's something new to learn. Today, we're going to talk about the beauty and sometimes even the just the frustration of being a lifelong learner. Because while it might feel like you're behind, you might be exactly where the Spirit tells you you need to be. Got it.
There's one thing I'm never going to learn. I refuse to
What
learn
is that?
dancing. So in our church,
Oh, no, you could learn if you wanted to.
I could no. My rhythm has left me. Our church had a spot on the bulletin where it said a lady wants to start a group that helps people of any age learn how to ballroom dance and swing dance. And my wife held it up and looked at me and smiled, and I went, never going to happen. Today we're talking about learning curve, basically, and why you'll never know it all.
You never know it all.
You'll never know it all. I mean, absolutely, we're meant to grow in wisdom. We're meant to grow in knowledge and faith, but the growth is not linear. It's not polished, and it's not even ever really finished. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just not.
Yeah. Well, and there's a saying out there like if you want to be an expert in something, you need to uh, dedicate. Was it is it what 5,000 hours? I think
10,000 hours. 10,000
ten
hours.
thousand hours, and you'll be an expert in a subject. And the reason why is because nobody else is willing to spend that kind of time learning a subject. But even if you are an expert in that subject, do you still know everything about that subject?
And are you putting it into practice? I mean, it's one thing to know like a book of the Bible inside and out, just one book of the Bible. I know it inside and out. I can quote it verse for verse and everything like that. But if you're not practicing it, if you're not taking it to heart, then it's all head knowledge.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we have a lot of that going on in society, whether it's biblically knowledge or Bible knowledge or it's knowledge of any other subject. We have a lot of people who know a lot of stuff, but we also don't know as though we have a lot of people taking action on the stuff that they know, which kind of brings in kind of a little bit of a twist on this subject, Bill, and that is if you're a lifelong learner, is it just knowing stuff or is it actually applying what you know?
Aha. Uh, I've always said that it's not what you know, it's what you do with what you know.
Hmm.
And if you don't do
Yeah.
what you know, do you really know it? It goes back to
Yeah,
this.
because
It,
you can regurgitate a lot of stuff, but that doesn't actually prove that you know what you're talking about.
Right. It goes back to the idea of the fireman. I want to be a fireman. I graduated from high school and I went into fireman school and I learned everything about fires and how fires do this and how fires do that. And if you leave the door closed, the fire won't do something. And if you leave the door open, the fire will do something else. And I know everything about fires. And then I get a job at a fire station and I amaze people with my knowledge of fires and what they do here and what they do there. And my training is excellent and it's absolutely fantastic. Am I a fireman if I've never actually put out a fire? I got,
You are a knowledgeable person about fires.
yeah, and I might act completely, I might know exactly how to act, but will I act that way when it actually,
When the time calls.
when the time comes? And so the argument is am I a fireman if I've never really put out a fire? I go to schools and I teach kids how to put on fire equipment and what this is for and what's that's for, but I've never put out a fire. The little kid puts his hand up and says, "What fire have you put up?" And I said, "I've never put one out yet." Does that make you a fireman? It's a maybe a circular argument of sorts. He is, but he isn't. I am, but I'm not. But
I think,
when we talk about lifelong learning, at what point do we stop and say, "I've learned enough"?
well, So it becomes really interesting, right? Because using the fireman example is like, okay, I don't need to learn more about being a fireman. I need to go out and just be a fireman.
Hmm.
But what do you then learn when you're actually going out there and putting out a fire for real? Like I read everything in the textbook, took all the classes, know how to use all the equipment, but until I actually do it, what do I learn from doing it? Because
Yeah.
isn't that part of it too? Like like some of the greatest learning that you get is like I can be book knowledgeable to the hilt, but until I actually go and do it, that's where the real sometimes that's almost where the real learning comes into play, right?
Right. Right. So there's a
When I put into practice what I've learned.
yeah. So the problem is that in a world where we everything is a quick fix. Everything is I've arrived. We often see learning as a means to an end, but it's
Yeah.
not. But it's not a lifestyle. Spiritually, we fall into the trap of thinking we should have it all together by now, and instead we're embracing really a lifelong process of transformation. But we have to embrace the process that we're going to be learning and learning and learning. It's like I told you a few months ago. Pastor says, "Hey, we're going to go through a book of the Bible again." Like they've been doing a lot, but this is the book that we're going to go through again is the book of Acts. And
Ugh, I've already read Book of Acts.
been
I've
there,
already
done
done.
that. Yeah, Paul gets saved. He goes off and does stuff.
Yeah,
And
Paul goes out and writes a bunch of letters to a bunch of churches.
right, but I am thoroughly enjoying it because there's always something new that pops up and goes, I didn't see it that way. Oh my goodness, why didn't I didn't see it that way the last time? I didn't understand that aspect of this part of the story. And
Yeah,
and when it comes to the Bible, the person who says they know it all is the person who knows it the least.
is that's the person you need to be the most leery of.
Right. God's promise to us is that He invites us into a continuous, spirit-led learning process.
Well, and I think some of that too. I mean, absolutely from the faith perspective, with God continuously wanting to pour into us so we understand Him and His Spirit and His mind and His heart, so we understand Him better. That absolutely applies. Um, but I think even just kind of in just the real world, um, there's also an aspect of like I can learn something, and then if I go apply it, I've elevated myself to a new understanding of things. Then when I go back and read the exact same thing that I've read 10 times before, I am now seeing it from a different perspective. Like I saw it from this perspective before, now I see it from this perspective
Right.
because I grew a little bit.
You grew a
Now
little
I
bit.
see it from a different I see it from a different angle, and I think the same thing applies, from Scripture and from faith and from the Bible too. Is like, okay, I read Acts, I understood all the things that Paul did. I tried to do some of that myself. As I did, I grew. Now when I go back and read it a second time or a third time or a 10th time or a 100th time, I see what Paul did. I'm like, oh, I now understand it from a different perspective because I actually applied something. So I think part of this idea of lifelong learning is I could probably just pick one book to read, whether it's Bible or a book of the Bible or just something off of my bookshelf back here, or you got your books back. I could probably just pick one book and just read it over and over and over and over again. As long as I just keep applying what I've learned and then go back and read it a second time, I'm going to see it from a different perspective. And I don't have to read lots and lots of books. I could just pick a few books and just keep reading them as long as I keep applying what I've read.
Yeah, I think a key there is choosing which books to read. You know,
Well, absolutely. Like, I'm just not gonna, I'm not gonna pick up a comic book.
I don't know. Some of the comic books are pretty. They're called graphic novels for a reason.
That's a good point.
But yeah, but anyway, I mean, you're not going to continuously read Hop on Pop because eventually you're going to want to graduate from Dr. Seuss to, I don't know, J.K. Rawlings. Yeah, sure. I mean, if you like Harry Potter, I saw one half of one of those movies and it just wasn't for me. But ask my daughter and son-in-law about them, and they will quote you chapter and verse. But that's their era. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So my wife, I have a wife. My wife, she went very far in her schooling as an associate degree in nursing, and a good career. But then she said, "You know what? I think I want to go back and get my RN license, the full license." Okay. And so she went back to get her RN license. And while she was getting her RN license, there was not a fast track, but there was an option to go straight into the master's level and get a nurse practitioner license, family nurse practitioner license. So she went and she did that. This wasn't when she was in her 20s. This is when she was in her, well, I'm not going to tell you, but you know, it, it was in
What?
her, it was,
I
yeah,
thought your wife was still in her 20s.
yeah. Well, that's what I keep saying. She's celebrating the 32nd anniversary of her 29th birthday, but don't do the
Yeah,
math. Don't do the math. Anyway,
don't do that.
don't do the math. But then after having that degree and using it, putting it into practice for 10 years, she says, "I want to go back and get another master's degree." And I'm going, "Have you not learned enough about this stuff?" No, she's gonna branch out. And so she went and she got a second nurse practitioner license in a different field, and that's what she's practicing now. But her knowledge of the first and the second and the third degree is helping the fourth degree. And I'm going, okay. You know, I'm thinking read a book, you know.
Well, I actually just told, my wife just, it was yesterday or the day before that I think I want to go take a cooking class. I enjoy cooking. It's something that I actually do enjoy doing. And I think I'm pretty good at it. I can, I mean, I cook right. I don't burn stuff and stuff I make stuff I make tends to taste fairly well, and I don't have to follow a recipe perfectly in order for it to still come out. But there's an aspect of like I want to know more. I want to know how to use certain spices or certain foods, or want to learn how to use certain like which pan's best for this particular whatever. So and so I actually like I find myself sometimes like I I crave learning. Like
Right.
I want to know more about this. Um, but then it's just the aspect of like, okay, well, are you actually going to go and do it?
Yeah. Now, and I think that's kind of the point of this whole podcast is don't fight the learning process,
Yeah.
because when you stop wanting to learn, you've stopped. I know I'm friends with a guy who's 82 years old and he puts out 2 or 3 videos a week and he's learning how to do videos and he's learning how to do stuff. He hasn't stopped learning how to do
Yeah.
something new. And if he doesn't know, then sometimes he calls me, sometimes he calls somebody else, and we get together and we talk. And yeah, so I
Yeah. And
mean,
I think some people fall into the trap of like, well, if I have to keep continuing to learn more, then that means I must have not done something right. It means I failed to learn. I'm like, somehow I'm a failure because I didn't learn this before. And I think that like if you feel that way, then I think you need to kind of just shift your mindset to say, well, like, no, there's still more out there. I'm not failing. I'm like just like I'm trying to follow the learning path,
right, right,
which
right.
is I think, exactly what God, that's what God has in mind for us.
Yeah. So let's grab some real quick thoughts on this, because we can
Yep.
we can go on and on about stories of having to learn and learn again and relearn. And I keep thinking that every time I think I've got it all figured out, I'm reminded that I'm in kindergarten and God just wants to hand me another crayon and say, "Back at it, Bill."
Go ahead.
Right?
Good try, Bill. Good try.
Stay in. Don't worry about the lines. Don't worry about the lines. It's
Yep.
it's okay. So anyway, curiosity is a form of worship. Asking questions and exploring faith doesn't weaken it; it strengthens
Mhm.
it. Ask questions. If you think you've got it figured out, you don't. Be curious. Ask questions. Even have doubts, because it makes you dig deeper. I mean, that's one
Yeah, it
point.
does. Well, and I think along the same lines is like sometimes we let our pride get in the way. We're like, well, I already know this. And I think as soon as the words come out of our mouth of like, I've heard this before, or I know what this is about, like that should be a trigger for us to go, no,
No,
no, I need to hear it again because pride will kill the progress.
I like that. Pride will kill the progress. And then,
Yep.
and then realize that the spirit, this is the third point, a spirit is your tutor. You're not learning alone. God is patient. He's persistent. Good thing, considering where me. He's patient. He's persistent, and he's perfectly okay with your pace. Just don't stop walking, and let this
Yeah.
and let the spirit be your tutor.
And I like that. I like that part of like just don't stop. The pace doesn't matter. Just keep finding something new to learn. Just keep finding something new to learn.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So payoff. Lifelong learning isn't a delay in your spiritual journey. It is the journey.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? Is like I don't it doesn't again going back to what you just said, it's not about the pace. It's the fact that I am on a journey and I'm gonna be on this journey until my last breath.
Right, right. And I know we mentioned books, but please realize that it's not just book learning. You learn through your relationships with others. You learn
Mhm.
through asking other people questions. You learn by listening to your pastor or your small group leader, whatever you're involved in. You learn by asking questions, uh, maybe even being a little controversial at times.
Sure.
But you're asking questions, but your mind is open to learning something new, to
Well,
understanding something new. And when you stop learning, you stop living.
I like that. Well, and I think sometimes too, the like um I think it was John Maxwell said, like, if you're the smartest person in the room, find a new room.
You're in the wrong room.
Yeah. Meaning like I want to be the person in the room that doesn't know anything. And I'm like learning from everybody else that's in the room. So
If
like so what are some of the what do people need to do, Bill? What's called the actions? What's the call to actions?
where have you assumed that you've already have it all together? I know
Mm,
everything there. Ask yourself that. Where are you assuming, and what spiritual area are you willing to become a student in again?
ooh, that's a good one.
And then
That's a
finally,
hard one. That's a hard one, right? It's like, well, I've already done this. I don't need to do it again.
or yeah, as soon as you think you've got it figured out, you don't. All right, that's an obstacle you need to walk around. And then who or what could be an unexpected teacher in your life right now? I mean,
Yeah.
it's okay to learn from your daughter or your son. It's okay to learn from the kid walking down the street. There's always something to learn from somebody.
Everybody knows something more about something than I do.
Right.
I don't I may not know what that is, and but I yeah somebody can every single person can teach me something.
Yeah.
I just have to have the mindset of am I willing to let them teach me?
Yeah. So the call to action is real simple. Keep your mind open and keep learning. If you stop learning, you stop living. Hey, there's Jamie.
Hey, right over there, that's a Bill.